Today, this is a changelog for enhanced UI version 1.3. And the purpose of this changelog is to explain the differences between it and the last version so that as you go through the documentation, you don't get lost. Most changes are for the UMG LineGrid systems. And I'm going to explain what changed between it and the last versions. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, the first thing we want to do is we want to go to the content folder of the plugin and open the grids folder. And the first change is the example map. And let's just click that to open it and demo it. So this is the main map or widget that you'll take a look at that demos the zooming and scrolling and the new LineGrid system. The widget for that, you can find it inside the blueprints folder. So yeah, you can check that and open it. So that's mainly the first change, the example content. I'll now explain what changed in the LineGrid canvas panel. To do that, I'm just going to create a widget blueprint and then add a LineGrid canvas panel to it. And then we're going to explain the changed properties. Okay, to get started, just look at your details panel on the right and open the LineGrid array on enhanced UI. And we are then going to talk about the changes that were introduced. The first thing I did is I created a proper child and parent relationship between LineGrids. I'll explain what that means, but basically, sometimes you want a LineGrid to follow what its parent is doing during zooming and scrolling. So that's what that option has parent is for, and it's useful when you have one or two LineGrids. So here I'm creating my parent one called bars, and then I'm creating a second one called beats, because beats they follow the bars, right? Basically, the beats are a division of bars. You can see that if you demo using FL Studio and we change the quantization to bar, and we then change it back to beats. The beats are a division of the bar. So the beats in this case will then be the child of the bars. Okay, so that's what the parent and child relationship means. This one is for the half bar, which means the parent can either be the bar or the beat. But basically, yeah, that's what the child part of the relationship means. And it's mostly for zooming and scrolling, as you can see here. So yeah, since our beats have a parent, we want to take has parent and set the parent ID to bars, okay? Because that's what our parent is, the bars. And then let's change the line properties, the color, so that we can see which ones are the bars, which ones are the beats. And then here, what I'm doing is I'm changing the priority so that the bars get drawn on top of the beats. Okay, that's what the line properties option is for. The next thing that I'm doing here is I'm setting the ratio. This is what determines how many beats are there in one bar. And as we just saw, there's 4, all right? So depending on whatever LineGrid you're building, there's 4 LineGrids, as you can see. That's what the parent ratio is for. It's basically the question of how many beats are there in a bar, all right? Like if we were to duplicate this and we added half beats, it's basically asking how many half beats are in a beat, all right, or in a bar. So that's what's happening here. There's 2. But yeah, that's what that parent ratio thing is for. Okay, so you can add as many children and you can have children and then grandchildren, and the effects you apply to the topmost parent will cascade all the way to the children. This is mostly for zooming and scrolling purposes, which I'll demo. In the next video, or you can just open the example map. Okay, so for now, let's add the text label so that we can see which ones are the bars, which ones are the beats, but I'm just going to add the text labels for the bars, okay, so that we match what you just saw in FL Studio. So to quickly demo the changes, you can see that when I change the parent, which is the bars, line spacing, the line spacing of the children changes automatically. Okay. In the last version, you had to do this through code, and you had to target a lot of properties. In version 1.3, just target the properties of the main parent, which is the boss, and the effects will be applied to the child line weights automatically. Okay. Now, while we are here, I just want to briefly explain that there is already a widget, the zoomable grid widget, that handles most of the logic for zooming and scrolling. And that widget just targets the line spacing. So before you start writing your own, take a look at that class. Okay. So what I'm doing here, I'm just demoing the new blueprint exposed functions here. And one of the main things you want to do first when you get your LineGrid canvas is get the LineGrid object. Okay. So here you might want to type in bars because that's your parent. Okay. And then once you have a LineGrid, you will have a lot of blueprint exposed functions that were not there before. You'll go through the tooltips, or we'll go through them in another video. Just try to figure out what they do. So the zoomable LineGrid system I just showed you basically just uses those functions, and it does the heavy lifting for you. But you can make your own zoom in and scrolling system. But I do recommend that you watch the next video for the zoomable grid widget.